Are you a franchisor frustrated with an insurance compliance program? Are you trying to implement it, get adoption, and have ongoing continuous improvement without any success? I'm going to go over 9 steps that you can do in your organization to implement an insurance compliance program successfully. Hi, my name is Wade Millward, founder and CEO of Rikor, a firm dedicated to helping franchisors and franchisees protect their investment, protect their brand, and be successful. We're actively writing the book on how to implement insurance compliance effectively in the franchising industry. Look, guys, the truth of the matter is that franchisors across the country, both small emerging brands, hyper emerging franchise brands, existing franchise brands, and even well-established, what I would consider sophisticated franchise brands, are failing to implement an insurance compliance program successfully that actually gets adoption, actually gets traction from your franchisees. It is extremely difficult. When we started Rikor early on, we thought that simply by providing the software that it was going to be sufficient for franchisors to get franchisees to actually get this going. We were wrong. Franchisors would roll out the software. Franchisees would argue, complain, push back. All of the things that you could imagine happened, even though the franchisor has always required some sort of documentation, some sort of insurance requirements. It's all in there in the FDD, in the FA, in the ops manual. This is nothing new. This has always been happening, yet the franchisor never had a solution, a sophisticated platform, software that was actually engaging proactively with franchisees to collect this information annually, quarterly, whatever it was. It was just done. Maybe sometimes they would ask for it when the franchisee was onboarded. Sometimes they'd collect the document. Sometimes they'd maybe ask for it when the policy came up for renewal. But it wasn't consistent. It was falling through the cracks. Gaps were everywhere, exposure everywhere. This is a massive blind spot for both franchisors and franchisees. But it is critical to the success of the franchise system. And here's why. Without proper insurance, franchisees with one uninsured claim could go BK. Their entire investment, life savings, 401k drained, gone with one uninsured claim. That's what we're trying to prevent. So I'm going to go through several steps that franchisors can do at a high level to be able to implement a successful insurance compliance program. Now, if you want the full guide, please reach out to me. I have the entire guide. There's a lot of meat here. And so I'm going to go high level, reach out for the entire thing. Number 1, establishing a culture of compliance. Oh, everybody hates this. Nobody wants to create a compliance culture. What are we trying to create here? We are trying to create where compliance is not such a nasty thing, a dirty word, a swear word, a 4-letter word. It's not. If we can shift the perception of what compliance means, protection, livelihood, security, that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Franchisees have invested everything into this business, and we're trying to protect it. We're trying to protect not only their investment, but we're also trying to protect the brand. And this is one of the best ways to do that, through insurance compliance. What are some things that you can do to establish a culture of compliance? Lead by example. Communicate the importance. Educate franchisees. Find a franchisee champion in your organization that has a case study, that has an experience that they can draw upon to tell others their story. Find your champion. Talk about it. Number 2, shifting the franchisee mindset. And we have to shift their mindset. How do they look at it? Compliance is protection. What is the long-term value of insurance? Does it protect their livelihood? Does it protect the way they actually feed their family? Can we help them understand that? Can we help franchisees understand worst case scenarios? What are some really clear case studies that you can use in your organization to help franchisees understand that, look, your inherent exposures can cause this. This is what we've experienced in the past, and this is how insurance will react, right? They're investing. It's an investment vehicle. Now, you may not get money back, but you can get money back in the form of an insured claim. That is the way we need to shift the perception on insurance. Number 3, providing educational resources. Franchisors often come to us asking for information, asking for content. And so what we did is we created what I call micro learning modules. They're 1 minute each. Insurance is difficult to digest. It's difficult to understand. We have our own language. And so being able to digest insurance information in 1-minute modules is actually very, very good. If you don't have ours, you want to build your own, you need to get educational content, educational resources at the franchisee's fingertips. Insurance is like anything else because it's such a foreign concept. You guys build entire operating manuals for the franchisees. And yet insurance is one of those things that just says, Mr. Franchisee, go find insurance, figure it all out. And yet, while everything else is being explained to them in detail on how to market, how to advertise, how to sell, how to do operations, how to fulfill, insurance is the one thing that's left. And so make sure you have educational content at their fingertips, add it to your LMS, leverage our knowledge base if you need to. Engagement and accountability. Who is the owner of this massive task? Somebody at the franchisor level needs to take ownership of the implementation process of insurance monitoring. They need to be the champion at the franchisor level. Make sure there's clear roles and responsibilities. Make sure there is open communication. Don't push away. In fact, embrace. Hold town hall, send out articles, send out the resources, whatever it takes to get this going to help franchisees. That's what you need to do. Reward participation. There is fear-based, right? And there's also incentive-based. And so use those two carefully. Often in the beginning, you may want to reward, educate, then reward them for doing it. It's very positive. And then you set a standard and expectation, and later on you can go fear-based and possibly consequences. But I would not open up with consequences. Something new. Next one, understand how this impacts the rest of the organization. We call this enterprise level risk management. And so we offer in our guide an entire checklist, things to consider that may be impacted by implementing an insurance compliance program. Often we think, oh, it's just the one thing. Well, how does it actually impact the overall organization, the health of the company? Does it impact sales? Possibly. Does it impact advertising or marketing? Does it impact the operations, administrative burden? Who is this touching? And so you have to have the checklist. You have to go through. You have to ask these questions to make sure you understand exactly what you're getting yourself. Overcoming barriers to adoption. So you understand everything. You're on board. Everybody's committed. And all of a sudden you start the insurance implementation program and crickets. No adoption. Why? Oftentimes, if you've never done this before with franchisees, for whatever reason, it's overwhelming. They already have insurance. 9 out of 10 times they have insurance in place. Now, 9 out of 10 times it's not done correctly. We have found that to be true. We have also found that they're omitting certain coverages because they think it's more cheaper. They think they're doing their business a good thing, when in reality they're not. They're hurting their business. And so often we're asking for everything up front. Hey, give me all 15 of these things. It's not 15, I'm just exaggerating. And they look at it and they're overwhelmed because they're deep in the business, right? They're doing too many of the things. So we have to make it smaller, digestible. Give them something that they can do immediately without any punishment or consequences or judgment. And so often we talk about the core coverages: general liability, auto liability, workers' compensation, umbrella if that's a requirement. Focus on the core. And then we can start expanding to the ancillary coverages that are now often being required from franchisors: professional liability, pollution liability, medical malpractice coverage, possibly, like I said earlier, umbrella coverage, EPLI, cyber liability, crime. These come possibly a fast follow. So that way you can get better adoption. Get them doing something in the right direction and get them doing the rest of the things later. Number 7 here, eliminating the not verified policies. This is a Rikor term. Other companies use this too, but not verified to us means they don't even have the coverage in place, or they're not even uploading the documents. So how do we actually get these franchisees to upload these documents? The champion of the franchisor should be setting clear goals and expectations. Just like anything else we do in business planning, you have a quarterly objective. Set your quarterly ROC. Identify where you're at today. Set a goal for where you want to be. Now, your objective is to decrease this number, right? Because ultimately we want to get a 0 not verified. And so you should have an emphasis or create a goal. Make sure the champion has that and then push through. So our system is automatically reaching out to all these franchisees, but oftentimes what happens is that this system may be just simply augmenting the work of the champion at the franchisor level. So keep that in mind. The next one is improving non-compliance. So we have 2 different statuses in our system: a policy status and also a compliance status. Policy status is, have they uploaded a document that proves that they have some sort of coverage for the required coverages? The compliance status is much more nuanced. Are they meeting all of the individual requirements for the individual coverages? So oftentimes people are using the RMS, our system software, to be able to augment their work. Ours does a lot of the heavy lifting, but sometimes it requires an individual touch to reach out to a franchisee to be able to get them from just not from non-compliant to compliant. The way we suggest doing this is you have an initial outreach plan, possibly some type of protocol, let's say 3 individual outreaches. Then you go to an escalation communication protocol, which may require 1 additional email, possibly some text messages. And then finally, again, this is after you've done all the things, you've implemented it, people are aware, and then you get to legal communication. And that's where you get your attorney involved. We have franchise brands that are doing this today effectively because they've had an insurance compliance program in place for years now. And so the expectation and the standard has already been set. And ultimately it gets to a point where franchisees need to follow through on this, because what's happening is they're not only leaving their franchise, their business exposed, but they're actually leaving the entire brand exposed. And that's really the problem, one of the biggest problems that we're trying to solve for. And the last tip here is monitoring, reporting, and continuous improvement. So measure the results, right? We have to measure the data in order to improve it. Without the intent of improving data, there is no point in measuring data. And so look at the data, measure the data, improve the data over time. Leverage the RMS, make sure franchisees are following through on it. Report back to leadership, right? This should be part of the quarterly assessment or monthly check-in or monthly highlight, whatever it is that you guys do, top line analysis. Set new goals. If you are not verified as at 20% and you have 20% outstanding, set a new goal to get it all the way down to 5%. And then scale the program. Make sure that it's all dialed in. Make sure all of your insurance requirements are being monitored and measured. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys as franchisors. We want you all to succeed. If you want a copy of our 9-step guide to implementing an insurance compliance program, please reach out.